Advertisers pivot their creative in the time of the virus. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to the focus group. John Nash here in New York with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett joining us from Delaware. Tim, are we allowed to say that?
I'm in the nation's summer capital.
You're in the summer capital. You've been there for several weeks. I've been upstate for several weeks. Focusgroupradio.com is the URL for our website. We urge you to visit that site where you can learn about me and Tim, all our shows, including Unbuttoned, our Tuesday audio-only podcast available on Tuesdays. And, of course, the focus group will be there, audio and video as well. And you'll learn about our sponsors to the program as well. So here we are in week whatever. It's getting blurry to me. I with sheltering in place, one good thing, I'm watching spring emerge. That's good. And hopefully with the moderation in temperatures, maybe that might slow the virus down a bit. But I think that it's sunk in for most Americans that this is the new way of doing business for the next several weeks, at least. At least it's sunk in for me. And we're going to talk later in the show about the obvious change in advertising that you're seeing on television commercials, and everything seems to be in these uncertain times. Or, in fact, I think that is Tim, is that possibly the highest trending in these uncertain times? Is that the new one?
Uncertain times, or I saw some people using the new normal.
The new normal,
which
yeah.
I don't know if that is necessarily the case. Although I do think people will do things differently. They're wondering how afraid people may be to be in crowds again once baseball starts up or summer concerts start, that sort of stuff. So who knows? Would you be afraid?
I'm thinking about it. And I'm
would
thinking,
would you go to Tanglewood? Because you guys go to Tanglewood.
Oh, sure, I'd go to
summer.
Tanglewood in a heartbeat. Yeah, because you're outside. You are closer to people, but even when you're under a canopy or something, you still basically are outside. I think this is the bigger question for me, actually, and what I've been reading and a lot of the reporting lately is, what does it look like on the other side of the flattened curve? If we succeed in limiting as best we can the number of deaths or infections, how do you reassure people who have been, holed up and doing their thing and going out only for essentials that, okay, you can get back? What is going to be that benchmark that says you're fine to resume your normal life? And what is the new normal going to look like, right?
Well, there's going to certainly be a lot of pent-up demand for a lot of things because most people will miss Easter. A big majority of this country celebrates Easter. It's a time for renewal or for families to get together in some cases. Passover will be missed. I think people's birthdays, there's funerals that aren't taking place. I have a number of friends who have had people that have died that the funerals have been postponed. So I think there's going to be, I said to Richard the other day, I think there's going to be this pent-up demand all of a sudden once they say that we can go about our business, that there's going to be almost too much stuff to do to catch up on, right?
When the all clear sounded. Yeah, I watched Governor Cuomo's press conference yesterday, and he addressed this in an interesting way, and it came down to this. While they're working on improving the speed of testing to see if you are in fact suffering from the coronavirus, they're also working in parallel on plasma tests or blood tests to detect if you've actually been in contact with it. And as of this morning, a fascinating thing I read in the Wall Street Journal, Iceland, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it was Iceland. Yeah, Iceland has tested a vast majority of their citizens. And many that never even had symptoms volunteered to get tested. And now the data is coming out, and it's showing that in that country, 50% of the people who have come in contact with the virus never had a symptom, never knew they had it. And this goes a long way to explaining why this spread so quickly. Because for weeks we were told if you had no symptoms, don't worry about it. Could be that you had it, you were a carrier, and you're a spreader.
Is there any place more homogenous than Iceland other than Gilligan's Island? I mean, Iceland is, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about homogenous. So wait, you mentioned Chris Cuomo, who came down with the virus. We have our boys in the booth with us in New York. We have got Garrett and Steve with us. And what did you tell us something about Mr. Cuomo? Did you had asked
Governor
John and I a
Cuomo,
question
yeah.
earlier? Or no, it wasn't Governor
Was it Chris
Cuomo.
or Andrew?
It was Andrew. It was the governor.
Okay.
The governor?
Yes. If you want to have a picture here that you can look at from his latest press conference, and if we
I
zoom
gotta get my
in,
glasses on. Oh no. Maybe it's a bulletproof vest.
that's a good. There's other pictures from earlier times where you see the same sort of thing.
What do you think, John?
Well, I'm
visually
just seeing
impaired.
me
You can't see
because
it.
of our tech setup. So I'll
So
see
I
it
guess
later.
it
but
does look like those dumbbell nipple piercings that if
the
you're
straight the straight bar that goes through, right? Is that what you're
exactly
thinking?
that's exactly what it looks like through his white shirt. I would be shocked. I thought maybe his brother. I would understand Chris doing that because he's a little body. But I was shocked that it was the governor. Wow. Okay.
No. Why would you be shocked at that? I'm just curious.
Well,
I mean,
because Chris-
no one ever sees it technically until something like this happens, where a picture reveals, oh wow, maybe he's got a piercing or something, right?
I mean, that would be an interesting question. What governors do you think would have piercings? of any do you think Sarah Palin had one? But what sort of governors have piercings versus I don't know. To me, it's almost like would Donald Trump have that? President Trump? I don't think so. Maybe
No,
Melania. I don't know.
No. I bet we'd be surprised. I bet Mitch McConnell, no. Some tells me no, right? In fact, if you went through the two caucuses,
Nancy
I bet
Pelosi.
you never know, right?
Schumer.
Schumer, yeah.
Aaron Schock would have probably that representative from Illinois who got himself in trouble. He would have had piercings.
Not only did he get himself in trouble, he did eventually come out as gay. You know this, right?
Yes, yeah.
And
he's
it was
been
a
hanging
huge
around with a bunch of muscle men
boys.
around the world.
And everybody was like, "Why did it take so long? A, and why'd you vote against everything that affects the community? B, right?" So that was kind of one of those interesting things.
Oh, yeah. So I have to go to the grocery store. There's a little bit of a kind of a pitchfork and torches down here with people with out-of-state plates. But I've been here, as you said, for going on 3 weeks, and I'm fine. And the last time I was in New York was the end of February. So I've passed the quarantine time, but I almost feel a little scared. I have to go to the store and get dog food and some fresh vegetables and
Don't worry
things.
about it. Don't worry about it. I tell you though, it is different. We went to the store to get some essentials, and now it's just different. So 3 weeks ago was pandemonium. We went post toilet paper towel route, if you want to call it that. When everybody's emptied the shelves, which are still empty, by the way. Now, though, when you go, the meat counter is closed down. When you go to buy cold cuts, ham or chicken, whatever, that's all closed down. It's all pre-packed. And everybody is they're keeping their distance, and no one smiles anymore. It's really, so I went on a bike ride the other day. I took an hour at lunch to go on a ride. And I still get these looks like I'm not supposed to be doing this. I mean, I'm alone. I'm moving at 17. I've said this before. I'm moving at 17 miles an hour usually. So I went into the town next to us of Chatham, and I went by, and an old lady was taking a walk, and I wave and I smile, and then she finally smiles as I'm going by. I'm thinking, what's changed? It's a human being waving. I guess this is going to be the way it's going to be for a while, right?
Yeah, I saw, I don't know if we talked about this on Unbuttoned, which is our Tuesday podcast, which is released every Tuesday morning. But one of our listeners, Billy, suggested when we mentioned paper towels that he said one of the secrets he had was to go to auto parts stores, which are still open. So like AutoZone or Pep Boys if you're on the East Coast. And to get the paper towels there, which are blue, but they're still paper towels. And he said there's plenty of them. So it's actually a pretty good recommendation to head. So I was thinking of doing that. There's a couple of AutoZone and auto parts stores here. I thought I'd stop in and see if they have the paper towels that they use in the shop. They're the same thing. They're just blue.
Are you a heavy paper towel user?
Yes. Yeah, way too much, and
Maybe
only
because of the dogs. Maybe
it's because of the dogs, and as they're getting older, even today, I went through and I'm trying to ration the use of paper towels. Trixie is a real slob when she eats, and she'll eat some food, she'll drag it around the kitchen, moves her bowl around. So I'm constantly wiping up her food.
playtime. It's playtime.
Yeah, and she's she's half her teeth are gone, so she's kind of gumming her food and it's falling out of her mouth. And so anyway, she's making a mess. So I'm constantly wiping up after her. So I do use a lot of paper towels. Although I'm trying to ration. So I'll let you know about the auto parts thing.
Oh, please do, actually. And for everybody, for the boys in the booth and for you, we're all now consuming a little more TV than I would personally like. I mean, I haven't gone over the edge quite yet. But last night
whoa. Then you would personally like?
Yeah,
you're a huge TV watcher. Well, you watch movies that you
selective,
put on DVDs. Okay, all right.
So I've decided to put I put a little list together of things that we're going to catch up on. First of all, I said to Bob the other day, any of us on this on the show right now, Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, Chinatown, an amazing movie, Oscar winner from years ago. I downloaded that, and I'm planning to watch that one of these nights because Bob doesn't really remember the movie that well, which means he hasn't seen it in a long time.
I don't either.
It's a really well done movie and well worth watching. Great acting on everybody's part. So that's on the agenda. Thanks to Garrett, actually. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino, Garrett.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Garrett had said like you got to see it. So I downloaded that, and I know that based on what Garrett told us a couple shows ago, the last 20 minutes or so is pure unadulterated Quentin Tarantino, which I'm looking forward to. And then we did the thing that everybody else in the country seems to be doing right now, which is last night we turned on the Tiger King.
Oof.
Okay, so Tim, you watched 2 episodes. I've watched 1, and I'm in your camp. So far, this seems like a pretty normal. The guy's not that crazy. Like, there was an interesting point in that episode 1 where he makes this point that, well, wait a minute, they're trying to shut my exotic animal zoo down, and yet they move the animals to a sanctuary and charge people money to see them there. He goes, "What's the difference?" It's a fascinating.
And by the way, they don't pay the people that work the sanctuary either. So that was what I learned. Have you guys watched the Tiger King
on Netflix?
Jared or Steve?
Yes, I have.
Have you watched the whole thing?
I watched the entire thing last night. Yeah.
Whoa.
The entire thing last night.
Yeah, I sat down and really had my time with it. I couldn't stop watching it.
Really?
Does it get crazier and crazier?
Yeah, I mean, not even that it gets crazier. It just stays as crazy as it starts. And it just, like, the nonsense never stops. And all these people are just fucking crazy. Like, they keep introducing new people, and every other person they introduce is also nuts.
Wow. See, because I thought it started a little slow. I thought Honey Boo Boo was a bit more crazy than the Tiger King. But John did make a good point. A lot of this seems to happen in the South.
Yeah, I sent him a note and I said, "Start watching Tiger King." Why is all this always in the South? ... We didn't go to episode 2 yet, but they've interviewed this guy a couple times. First, he's without a shirt on, and sometimes they show him shooting a gun. But I think there was one thing where they're interviewing him, and I think they identified him as the guy's husband.
Yeah,
and he's missing a lot of teeth too.
Yeah, I didn't understand the teeth thing. Why don't he get his teeth fixed?
Meth.
Meth?
Yeah, they said he had, like, meth mouth.
Oh, my
God. Steve, are you serious?
Yeah, that's why that guy has, like, 3 teeth.
Well, John, there's also another husband that arrives, too, by the way. Just so you know.
Travis.
Get ready. You know what? Yeah, so, hey, you didn't watch The Stranger? You watched that yet? That's a good binge.
That's on our list as well, The Stranger. And one of our clients recommended on HBO The Outsider, which is a Stephen King thing, which I'm looking forward to. So we've got these things stacked up. But sometimes I go back to comfort movies. Like, so yesterday we didn't know what to watch. We didn't want to watch the news because I'm reading the news now. I'm reading the paper, scanning some sites. And what am I going to learn about my situation right now as we're hunkering down? I'm not going to learn anything new about that. We do keep obviously abreast of these things. So we didn't want to watch the news. So I go to Netflix, or I think it might have been Amazon Prime, and I am so predictable in my default viewing. So I'm click. I'm looking through, and I see Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. Play. Suddenly, I'm back in a movie I remember quite well. It was last century, actually, folks. It was last century. It was about Save the Whales, basically. It was a Save the Whales movie with Star Trek cast. And halfway through, Bob goes, and I said, "Don't you enjoy this? It's kind of like a soothing balm." And well, yes, poor Bob indeed. He's like, yes, I put up with it. So,
do you have 2 TVs up there, or just the one?
That's the one. That's all.
You need another one. You need another TV for Bob.
I got my computer up. I have a large screen I could sit in.
Do you watch things on that too? Yeah. Okay.
I specifically watch things he does not want to see. For example, CBS All Access had Star Trek Picard, which was a limited series. I watched an episode with Bob, and Bob goes, he starts asking all these questions. And I don't know if you've had this experience before where someone drops into a show that you've been watching. It's a complex plot line and many characters, and they start asking a million questions while the thing's going on. You're like, I don't have time to answer this. You haven't watched. And but he has actually watched this show. But then he finally confessed to me, and he said, I only really half watched it. I kind of dropped out intellectually a while ago, so I really don't know what's going on. So I have yet to see the final episode there.
You and my friend John Regini, though, are the two most pointed, I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better word, people that I've ever seen watch something. You get zoned in, and you just cannot be knocked off the zone in.
Well, Tim,
I've never seen like it. It's almost like having a drool cup. Yeah, you look at it as if you've never seen a moving picture before with sound, and you glare at it. And Regini was the same way. I'd be traveling with him, and I'd have to crack him on the side of the head, and say, "Let's get moving." You have TV at your house?
Something with John Regini, though. He was a cool guy. I like John a lot.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, but both of you, as if the moving picture was something very foreign to you. It's you get lasered right in on it.
Captive audience.
Captive. That's what it is. Captive
audience.
Hey, Billy from New York is on the line whenever you guys want to.
Oh, we'll take him. Hey, Billy, welcome to the show.
Oh, greetings from the bunker.
Oh, my God. Yes. Yeah. Greetings from the... How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm still out and about with the Fiero and whatever I can do. But Edwin laid down the law today. You come to the apartment, the shoes stay outside the door.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know. I guess it's a new thing. It's because the streets are laden with viruses. I don't know. Maybe because we're running now?
I think because people spit on the ground.
Ugh.
And
then you walk on it, yeah.
I did say I could take off all my clothes and come in. That would make it interesting for the neighborhood.
There should be like a curtain outside, like a little shower curtain. Maybe clear, because that would make it really titillating for the environment, right?
Yeah. He is watching this, like, zombie Asian thing on, was it Prime or Netflix? One of them, it's Asians, like, chewing their faces off. I'm like, really? We got to watch this now?
Billy, thank you. There are TV shows I think it was either Amazon or Netflix popped up something about it was a pandemic type movie for your viewing pleasure. I'm like, there's nothing pleasurable about that. Move on, right?
I'm still trying to figure out how to see the whole Picard. They say, you can watch it for free. We haven't figured that part out yet.
You can. You got to sign up for CBS All Access. They give you, and there's a gift, there's a code. It's GIFT, GIFT, and they give you a month for free. But make sure you go and cancel it after you sign up for it. You'll still get your free month, and then you could get to Star Trek Picard.
Okay, because, I'm not the boo-hoo you want, Tim, but I do like a little Star Trek now and then.
Listen, I understand there's a number of people out there. That's why it gets produced.
Yeah, well, hey, a little of that, a couple of viruses, a little Borg action, and here we go.
Yeah, you're all set.
So go get your blue towels at the AutoZone before they're all gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and you're the one who turned us onto that. So that actually, after this broadcast, I'm going there, and I'll post on Facebook whether at our Facebook page, Focus Group Radio, whether I got them or not.
Yeah, usually they will, or Advance, or any of them will have it. But you're getting 2 towels. It's like 2 rolls. It's like usually around $6.
Wow. Okay.
Do not put them down the toilet.
Yeah, not those. Those are like industrial strength paper towels.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to check in. I'm still alive. I'm afraid to cough around anyone.
I know. I rubbed my eye
Thanks,
the other
Billy.
day, and I'm like, allergies, it's allergies. Trust me. Thank you, Billy.
All
Stay
right.
safe.
Later.
Hey, that reminds me, Tim, I wanted to let you know on this TV thing, and anybody who's a big fan of Project Runway, the original Project Runway with Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum, Making the Cut has premiered on Amazon Prime, and we just had a ball watching it because it's the two of them, and it was like, oh, they're back. You might enjoy it.
Yeah, you sent me that. Is that similar to Project Runway? Just a new name, reboot
Yeah,
sort of thing, or?
Exactly. It's a very similar format, except the interesting thing is these are all established designers who do have lines like small shops and businesses already. And this is an opportunity for them to take their brand to a global level because the grand prize is $1 million. And the other difference is they don't have to do their own sewing. It's good to know that. But early in the episode, they introduced this thing where you send out the clothing to a seamstress. And Bob knew all about this. There's a tech pack. They create a tech pack. It's instructions for the seamstress for how to put it together overnight. And then the next day they come back, and hopefully their instructions were correct or the garment doesn't look right. But it's been
Wow.
We've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't like the new reboot of Project Runway. So we like Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum. So I'll watch that.
All right. So what caught your eye beyond all this?
What caught your eye?
Beyond all this.
Here's what Tim and John found.
So it's funny that Billy mentioned the clogging of the toilets.
Yeah.
Because I found this with putting toilet paper down there. So apparently during this virus, what's going on now is a lot of people are using other things in the bathroom besides toilet paper and flushing it down the toilet. So there was a sign in Redding, Redding, California, which has one of those big blinking signs like at construction, and it says only flush toilet paper. And they've had some troubles with people that are using ripped up T-shirts to wipe themselves and flushing them, and it's clogging up the sewer lines. They've had people that are using tissues and paper towels, and they said that it's been a real problem with clogging up the sewer systems in Redding. So they started checking with other jurisdictions and finding out this is actually happening all across the country. And Roto-Rooter, who we talked about a few weeks ago, has actually had to put out some PSA announcements saying, your toilets are not garbage cans, essentially, and putting flushing rules out there. I always flush paper towels sometimes. Do you ever flush paper towels?
No. It might go back to like when we bought this house. It was 19 years ago. I think we got a call one day, like a year after we bought the house, and it was a septic company that used to come by every couple of years to empty the septic tank.
Right.
And it was a long-standing schedule. The guy comes, they find the spot, they dig up the grass, they pump the tank. He goes, "You guys are doing great. Remember," and on the way out, he's like, "Remember, only put toilet paper down there. You don't want paper towels or other stuff." He goes, it causes problems, doesn't decompose properly. So we never did that. But I guess it's because it's paper, you assume that it would decompose like toilet paper. Is that why?
Well, that's what I always thought. So they said, do not flush toilet paper, do not flush napkins, and do not flush facial tissues. So like a Kleenex brand or something. And they said that they don't break down. But I thought that they eventually would break down. I don't know. I guess I'm just being naive. But because I have a friend in New York who you know too. She flushes everything. I've seen her flush toothbrushes, everything down there. She's crazy. But but this is saying that you're laughing. Your toilet is not a garbage disposal.
Not a garbage disposal, yeah.
And then they talked about in South Florida and Miami particularly. So those flushable wipes people do, like those ass wipes.
Yeah.
So they say they're flushable, but they're saying that they are not, and that Miami removes about 300 tons a month of the flushable wipes out of their sewer system because it's clogged the sewer system. So they want you to put that stuff in a bag in the bathroom. So if you use those flushable wipes, now I don't know why they call them flushable if they're not. So it's like you're in Greece or Turkey where you wipe yourself and put it in a bag, which I don't particularly like.
But go back. 300 tons?
The county already removes 300 tons of wipes from the sewer system every month. That has increased exponentially with the coronavirus and people using other forms of wiping material. So, the one using the T-shirts, ripping up the T-shirts and wiping and flushing it, that one now is a bit much. And they said also in New York, you'll like this, New York City, the owner of Queens-based Johnny Drain Cleaning. And what I love about Johnny Drain, of course, he's located in Flushing. And you can't make it up.
Drain.
He said there's been a run on people also flushing the disinfectant wipes. So, those Clorox things or those wipes that come in the pull-out thing. Yep. He said people have been using those and flushing those. So essentially, if you're a plumber or Roto-Rooter, your phone has been ringing off the hook because people are using their home toilet facilities more than usual because they're at home and they're flushing non-flushable products. So be careful. Just flush toilet paper.
That's it. Keep it at that level. Toilet paper,
yeah,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. So that's what caught my eye.
Well, what caught my eye, and by the way, just as an addendum to your thing, in many cities, they deal with things called fatbergs. Have you heard about this in the sewer system? It's grease and fat because people dump food and stuff down the toilets as well, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it meets up with hair and the wipes and all that, and it creates a huge, they have to take actual saws and blades to these things to get them
I didn't even think about dumping food.
People dump food down the toilet with the sewer system. It's kind of crazy. All right,
Wow.
So what caught my eye is something that caught Bob's eye, and this pops up now and then with us. And we were watching the TV, and we were watching some news, and they had an announcement that the Red Cross and the FDA were making pleas to continue to donate blood during this time of crisis because the reserves are actually very low. And Bob, being the good soul that he is, he goes, "Hey, we should go donate blood." And once again, I had to just fall back on something that he might not have been aware of. I said, you can't, and neither can I, because we're gay, and they've never changed those restrictions, and that's that. Well, then the next day, a story comes out, and it says why there's new pressure to allow blood donations for gay and bisexual men. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has put out an urgent call for blood donors as the spread of the coronavirus threatens the nation's supply. But obviously, gay men are not allowed to do this. And Brad Hoylman is he's a New York State senator, and he wants the ban lifted because basically he thinks this is previous century thinking and technology. We have a way to screen the blood. We know we can detect HIV in the bloodstream. That person would not be a donor then. And he's wondering why the Red Cross and people don't change these regulations. And he said, at the end of the day, it's just a discriminatory practice that really it's a practice based on belief and not on science. And I think we're seeing a lot of that colliding these days, aren't we? And then he said, you take it a step further. And what if you have a gay individual, a gay man, for example, who has survived COVID-19, the coronavirus, and now they're doing all these experiments with taking blood plasma from people who have developed the antibody and using it as a possible treatment for people that are further along or having difficulty managing it. Again, an individual would be denied that ability to donate blood plasma or blood in general because they're gay or bisexual. And the strangest thing here about this whole thing is you can as a gay man you are allowed to donate blood, but do you know the regulation for donating blood as a gay man? What the one requirement is?
No.
You have to have.
Oh, you're supposed to be celibate for a year or something?
Ding, 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 ding. Focus group socks to Tim. You're supposed to be celibate for a year. Now, how do you even prove that? And let's go a step further. It's no longer a gay male disease. Non-gay individuals have HIV. It's trans. It's no longer just that individual demographic. So, what are you going to make a straight person say? I have been celibate for a year. No, they don't bother asking that because the assumption is that they don't have HIV because they're not gay. And you see how that's
right. So I was because you started to answer the question that I had about this whole thing is that, and this has been going on for quite a while, obviously. But if you were, when they do take your blood, do they check everybody's blood after it's been taken? Because you're exactly right. There's a high incidence of women that have HIV, particularly women of color, right? Yep. There are intravenous drug users that may have had HIV. And we all know that there's a number of people that lie about their sex and sex life. And how many men do we know that are married, I'll put in quotes, on the down low, that don't identify as being either gay or bisexual, but have had sex with men. So that's why I'm wondering, do they check everybody's blood? I guess that's the question, to make sure that you don't have any HIV or anything else for that matter. I don't know.
I seem to remember, and I could be wrong, so I don't want to misinform anybody, but I do seem to remember that years ago it was announced that they were in fact checking the blood supply. So
Right.
regardless of who you were, the blood would be screened. And I'm not sure if it was per donor or per every couple of units, because they did run into issues where people that were given transfusions came down with, for example, HIV because it had been part of the donated blood. But that, I thought, had all gone away a long time ago with rapid testing and just with testing in general. So, yeah, my guess would be that they would screen all the blood. I would.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it was just one of those disappointing things that you want to help, you can't help, and you just scratch your head at why. And the why is, well, it's like an 1810 regulation in 2020 kind of thing. You're like, what's going on?
It's just another injustice. John.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. So that's what caught your eye this week. That's a pretty serious. That's a serious one.
Yeah. But here's, you have had to run up against the same thing I have. You know, we don't want the show to be about everybody's getting enough news about the virus from the daily news sources, and this should be a form of entertainment and knowledge and whatever. You can't escape it, though. Every single news feed I look at is something related to this. And actually at the news last night, I said to Bob, I said, once everybody pivoted, including the entire media structure, pivoted to this is now front and center. And I don't know if you could live in any part of the country and not know this is going on at this point, or the world for that matter, right?
Right.
There must be some countries where they're oblivious to it, but I can't figure out which ones yet.
No. All right. So we've got our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So sometimes for our business birthdays, we actually will highlight somebody that also has an interesting career, and for the business birthday. And this person had popped up. There were a number of kind of captains of industry, but I don't think we've ever celebrated this person's birthday. So Rachel Maddow from MSNBC, she's born today, April 1st, 1973. She's 47 today. And it's her birthday. She went to Stanford University, and then she was a Rhodes Scholar and went to Lincoln College. And she, when she started out, it was interesting. When she started on a small radio station in Western Massachusetts. And she actually won a contest to be on air. And from there, she moved on to Air America. And then from there, she moved on to MSNBC. She initially was a panelist on the Tucker Show. Can you imagine? I forgot Tucker Carlson was on MSNBC. Do you remember that?
I do. And she didn't do the NPR route. So it was to Air America and then to MSNBC, but not NPR, right?
No, you're right. She did not do NPR. She went right from Air America from 2005 to 2010, and then she went to MSNBC. But before then, she was in some small station up in Western New York. It was WRNX in 1999, and it was the Dave in the Morning Show. And she entered and won a contest, and she ended up being a co-host. And then they moved her on to another platform, WRSI in Northampton, Mass. Surprise, surprise. For 2 years before she left for Air America. And interesting. It's interesting how she got to MSNBC. Keith Olbermann, am I saying it right? Mm-hmm. He was a huge fan of hers, and kept trying to convince the powers that be at MSNBC that she needed her own show. So she would fill in once in a while for people, and then she ended up getting her own show. She also was a correspondent for The Advocate, which is an LGBTQ magazine. I did not know this. Apparently, they had some sort of news magazine show on Logo. Do you remember that?
Briefly, yeah, I do remember that, and it was not long-lived, but it was in fact a show based off The Advocate and news collecting. Yeah,
I didn't remember that, but they said she had done that. And so then when she became a permanent, she was put in the 9 p.m. slot and on MSNBC. And they said she was the first openly gay or lesbian host of a primetime news program in the United States. And I was wondering, what about Anderson Cooper? Hadn't he been out or no?
No.
This was in...
he only came out... Well, long after she did. Let's put it that way.
I didn't know. I didn't know if he had before her. This was 2008.
Let's put it this way. A lot of people in the community knew that he was, but he never made that definitive statement until I think it was like maybe the early 2000s or something.
Right. She was asked in an interview how she got, how she sort of rocket shipped her way onto the cable news scene. And they said she had a collegial relationship with Roger Ailes of Fox News, which surprised me. And she said she sought him out for technical advice, but she won't talk about it because she said, quote, "I don't want anybody else to use the advice he gave me. It was a nice thing he did for me, and it's been valuable, and it helped me get an advantage over all of my competitors." I wonder what that was.
Well, we know the casting couch was not involved, right?
Yeah. No, what?
I just don't see that being something that would happen with Rachel. But I wonder what the advice was. But when she said not to follow it, right? Not to use the advice that she got.
Well, she does. No, she has the advice, but she won't share what he told her because she feels it gives her a leg up. But they did say she's America's wonkiest anchor, and
facts and figures.
Right, and she said she thinks her success has been particularly with the president. She doesn't pay attention to what the White House says, but what they do. And then she said her other formula was that she begins every broadcast with a monologue. Some of them, they said, could be 20 minutes long. Now, I've tuned in sometimes, and I'll turn it off if I'm not interested, or it does get into the weeds sometimes quite quick. And I don't know if you agree or not. Do you watch her show?
No, I don't. And in fact, I stopped a long time ago watching Lawrence O'Donnell, Rachel Matthews. If on the Fox side, it would be Hannity. It would be all these people. It's not news. It's opinion. And when you actually see a reporter giving an actual news report, like there's a 4-alarm fire behind me, and there's 3 engine companies that responded and 2 people that were taken to the hospital for smoke inhalation, that's the news. There's no opinion there. That's just facts, right? When you watch the hosts, it's a lot of spin. Guys in the booth, do you agree with this? I mean, they're entertainment more than they are actually news reporters, right?
Yeah, they're like the op-ed of the...
There you go. The op-ed.
Paper,
That's a perfect example.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch it for news. It's everything you said. It's just what they're saying about stuff instead of the actual fact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've noticed. I've told you my disappointment with Morning Joe now because I feel they've really gone that route of the opinion and just really it's almost frustrating because they're almost trying to sensationalize everything, which I just think is too bad. She did a crossword puzzle for the New York Times, her own, like she created one, which I thought was interesting. And she has a partner, and they live together part-time in Massachusetts and New York City. Her partner's name is Susan Mikula, Mikula, and they met in 1999. The other interesting thing is they said Maddow has dealt with cyclical depression since puberty. And she decided to talk about it in 2012 because she says she deals with it quite often. And she thought it was important for her to talk about it, to bring light to it and the help that it might help somebody else. And she says she felt it was a responsibility to talk about depression. I found that was a shocker to me. I wouldn't have ever thought she had, they're calling it cyclical depression. Yeah.
I wonder if she probably does maybe medicate for that, I'm guessing, and she's aware of its onset. And then
yeah, she says she does 3 things to help her. She sleeps, she exercises, and she fishes.
Fishing. Wow.
Well, she is a lesbian.
That is a very cerebral sport. I remember my granddad, my mom's father, used to take me fishing, and I think it was to try to teach me to love fishing. I didn't want to sit that long. How long do we have to wait for the fish to grab I just put it in. Like, how aren't the fish hungry?
Rachel's fishing where the fish are. No surprise. Happy birthday, Rachel.
Good business birthday and good resume for her, right? Hey, so a few shows ago, we welcomed a new partner to the focus group. It's called Blinkist, Blinkist. And Blinkist.com is where you want to go to sign up and subscribe to the service. And basically what it is they give you access to a ton of books, business, philosophy, career. I'm going to go through a couple of ones that I picked, but I don't mean to do it this way, but it's kind of like Cliff Notes for adults. So what it is they take the book and they turn it into a blink, and a blink usually lasts about 15 or 16 minutes of reading time or of listening to it, because you could download an audio version of that blink as well. I have really enjoyed the service so far. I am, in fact, reading a book that I bought thanks to Blinkist, and in fact, the book is called How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. And it's about the Stoic philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, and the author's name is Donald Robertson. So I read the blink, and I thought, this is really fascinating. And I really enjoyed it. It was interesting to see, because the guy that wrote the book is a psychotherapist or a therapist, and he kind of wove the idea of living a philosophy into helping people overcome challenges or deal with emotional issues. And I went online to Amazon to see what the book was like, and it was a 5-star review, whatever. So I bought the book, and I'm really enjoying it. My newest
Did you do
books,
an
though,
Did you do an elo or an ebook?
Yes, I did a Kindle. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
can
an ebook.
you? So that I should know this because I've tried. But so could you have downloaded it just to your iPod or iPad?
Yep. As long as you
just
have
to have the app.
Yeah. If you have Kindle on your iPad, you could just sign in with your Amazon credentials, and then go to, you could list your library and you could download the books you want to download. So my new blinks this week were 2 things, and they came from the creativity area. One was called Innovation for the Fatigued, and it's basically the notion that, the more you sleep, the better you work. I like that one. And then this other one is also similar, but a different kind of tack, and it's called Rest. And Rest is more about slowing down the amount we absorb information-wise to get more clarity, whatever. But the great thing about it, as I said, is you could just poke around. Like, did you have any new ones this week, or are you still on your other blinks?
Well, I looked at. I went to the Storytelling Edge, and I
like
listened to that.
Yeah.
And what I love about Blinkist and is, you and I have talked about this before. You and I were inundated with business books, and they all sometimes feel that they're the same. But everybody does have a point of view or a different point of differentiation. Obviously, otherwise they probably wouldn't be published. And so, really getting to the meat of what's going on in the book to, as you said, then make you decide whether, okay, I'd like to dig deeper into this and see more of the examples, or to get further into the philosophy of why the person wrote the book. That's really what Blinkist is great for. And so that's what I loved about it, because I was able to distill right away, oh, here's what they're saying about storytelling and about how everybody could do it, but that you need to do these 3 or 4 things, which made me think. So I thought it was great. So head over to, if you go to Blinkist, BLINKIST.com/focus, you get a 7-day free trial, and then also 25% off your subscription for the year if you sign up for it. So it's Blinkist, BLINKIST.com/focus, and for a free 7-day trial, and save 25% on a subscription. So, hey, thanks again to Blinkist for being with us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, John has found a article for Shop Talk that talks about or discusses what some brands are doing currently during the corona epidemic. So stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. You can find us every Wednesday live on Facebook or YouTube. And of course, focusgroupradio.com is the URL you need to know to find out all about us and all our audio there, including Unbuttoned, our Tuesday audio podcast. And of course, at the focusgroupradio.com website, focusgroupradio.com, you could download our show in audio or video of what we're doing right now. So as Tim said before the break, most of you, since we are now pretty much more glued to the TV than we ever had before, and all those naysayers, TV's dead, TV's very alive, you, like me, may have noticed a really quick pivot by a huge majority of brands. So the way that would work is many companies probably had media buys, advertising time purchased, radio time, whatever it may be, already locked in. So when the crisis hit, it was time for them to change their creative. I am actually amazed at how fast some brands have redone television spots or created new ones. I'm thinking of McDonald's, Burger King. I hear a lot of things about, order ahead, come to the drive-in window, contactless. It's a contactless thing. You don't have to touch anybody, or we don't have to interact with you. And it's amazing how many brands have done this. Even auto dealerships. You could drop your car off. Our mechanics are still there, but we'll sanitize the car once we're done. So have you noticed this too, Tim?
Yeah, I brought my car needed a 10,000 service, my VW, and I brought it into the dealer, and they made a big point about it, of somebody was waiting there in the service aisle. So the sales side wasn't open. Yeah. But they would do the home visit. But for parts and service, they were open. But somebody in some sort of overall with all kinds of disinfectant went in and wiped my car down unbelievably. They serviced the car. When it came out again, they cleaned it. It's the cleanest it's ever been. It was actually great. I loved how they wiped everything, because sometimes dust gets on the dash or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they pivot that. Another friend of mine I talked to last night, she said that she had ordered groceries from Walmart.
They delivered. Did she go to drive and then they bring it out, or did she have...
Yeah, exactly. So what's happened is, she said that in the back of the store, they've set up this, and this goes to what you said about pivoting awful quick. They set up 8 parking slots in the back of the store. So you had to drive so you went on the app, you ordered what you wanted. They confirm your order and then ask you if it's okay for them to track you. So like your GPS on your phone. And if you say yes, they know when you're nearby, and you're supposed to alert them, but they can see if you pull into one of the slots. They say, let us know so you're in parking spot number 3. I'm the white car. Somebody comes out with a trolley with all your food on it. You pop the hatch or open the door. They put the stuff in, and you go on your way. And she said she would be doing it all the time if she could now.
Well, and we were going to discuss. We could talk about what this article is merely to leap us into a conversation. And Tim just said something that we've been talking about privately whenever we talk to each other every day. And that is that we both believe, and I think everybody's written about this, that this is going to permanently change consumer behavior in certain areas. I suspect that certain things may not ever be like it was before. And this is one of those areas where you might not have wanted to order your groceries this way, but having done it because of this and having a good positive experience, it's going to reinforce the behavior. And now, I'm just going to do it online all the time, right?
Right. I was talking to my friend Joyce, who lives across the street, and because I said to her, I like going to the store. And I said, I wonder if you ordered vegetables or fresh produce. And she said she'd watched some of these shoppers that were doing it. She said, they actually were taking care to make sure they got you the right bananas, or they got you fresh lettuce or whatever. Because I'm thinking, they're just throwing anything in the bag. But she had talked about what she noticed from the Giant supermarket when she was there watching the people collect the stuff, that they were actually taking care of doing it. I like going to the store, but I also like going to the mall. So I guess I'm old. And I like to cursive write. So, I'm a dinosaur.
Wow. Okay, that was a constellation of 3 things lined up in a fun way. I think that, back to the advertising or people or brands, like we saw on some channels, Norwegian Cruise Lines advertising some winter getaways and stuff. And you just look at it and you're like, did no one call to pull the creative? Could they have pulled the creative? Because let's be real, right? I think, I don't know when you will feel comfortable stepping onto a cruise ship again, no matter how clean they make it. Because let's face it, we've all heard the stories in the news about the couple that was going to go on their honeymoon. They were hemmed and hawed, and then they do it, and they're stranded at sea or whatever. And of course, we knew before the big influx of infections that the cruise ships had a lot of that going on. So how does that industry recover? I think that, with groceries, I'm with you. I actually don't mind going shopping. I'd rather choose what I want on, the
right.
brand wise, or if something's on sale, but that's a behavior that's going to change. The there is a Dairy Queen not too far from us, the DQ, which I always ride by on my bike, and I smile because when I was a kid, when we were growing up, Tim, Dairy Queen had soft serve, and we would.
Yes.
Well, that drive-through window they have is, the line goes around the building, and I'm like, wow, and that's not unusual. I mean, you'd always see someone getting at the drive-in, but mostly people would park, go in, sit down. So I think it's just going to change things. And so this article basically said 5 tips from a consumer psychologist on how brands should pivot or respond to the virus. The first tip was just be careful. This makes sense. You want to make sure your messaging is not going to land like a rock, and you don't want to be insensitive, and you want to make sure that you're saying the right things and doing the right things. What was some of the other ones here?
I'm trying to pull up my.
Well, the next one, we were literally just talking about. Why don't you just do
them because I'm having trouble pulling it up.
Okay. The next one was don't make it about yourself. So, where it says some brands have put out ads that try to encourage social distancing by reimagining their logos. And I think, Tim, you actually did put those in some on the deck. McDonald's.
Yeah, they got things. So the logo thing, there's a McDonald's, they separated the arches, and then Audi separated their rings, and Volkswagen separated. But apparently, so the McDonald's in Brazil, the affiliate in Brazil, did this, and people got upset by it. And then Bernie Sanders apparently went nuts over it. I don't know why, but they said that they thought it was, I guess maybe it was taking advantage of something. I don't know. Or maybe it wasn't.
I wasn't sure why.
About equal pay.
I wasn't sure why he got ramped up over it, because they're just I think they're just being smart or savvy, and they're taking their own logo, separating and saying, we're in the spirit of social distancing. This next point was interesting. Talk is cheap, take action. And this came right down to this. It says, in the last week, numerous companies are stepping up their philanthropy. Alcohol brands are making hand sanitizers. Ford is partnering with 3M to make respirators, and Unilever just announced it would spend $108 million on soap, sanitizer, bleach, and food for charities. So this is one of those. This is very much in the playbook of many brands already, which is make a difference, take action, and the halo effect of people knowing that you were there and you stepped up. That's gonna put you on the.
Right, and talk about brand extension with these alcohol companies. So Anheuser-Busch, if you're watching our video, Anheuser-Busch has come out with a number of they're still making beer, but some of the lines, because of the alcohol content ability, they're making hand sanitizer, and they're actually making the bottles very cool. They're kind of these artisanal bottles of hand sanitizer that look like their brand. And then they've done it for Michelob and a few other of their brands. But then somebody went further within the advertising community and said, what would some of the other brands look like that if they made bottles? So Miller Lite or Corona or Bud Light or something. But I can imagine these alcohol companies actually continuing to make this even when this is over, because talk about a whole new business for them, right? Is this hand sanitizer? There's a local craft beer place here, Dogfish Head out of Delaware, that's actually now making hand sanitizer as well. So if you have the ability to do it, and it does well, and as you said, it's satisfying a need, I bet a lot of companies continue doing this.
My guess is you're right. I think that there's going to be a stickiness to some of those solutions they have. And from a consumer point of view, you go to a supermarket and every Purell is gone, right? But if Anheuser-Busch, if you find a sanitizer made by that company and it's the only thing you can find, you're going to be like, wow, they were here for me. So I agree. I think that's going to stick beyond whatever the beyond is. And then one of the last ones here, second to last, penultimate, which means next to last, even though I used to think that meant the ultimate.
Oh boy, you and that penultimate again.
Greg, I was taken down during a presentation with that word. Put employees out front, skip the celebrity endorsements. Now, this one does fascinate me because truck drivers, delivery people, the essential workers, right? People that are actually keeping a lot of this stuff moving behind the scenes or right in front of you. I think that's a smart thing. On the celebrity side, I read a fascinating piece in the Times about influencers and how that whole industry is going to take it on the chin, because showing a guy at a beach with a little bathing suit on and perfect abs talking about, how beautiful it is, or I just tried this hair gel or whatever they do, the influencers, it just rings kind of hollow right now. And it's so those influencers, I think brands that associate with them are like, okay, well, that's like a great way to sell underwear, for example, and it's male or female. But are we really going to be doing that now? Because no one's going out anyway. You're all stuck at home. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
And then it just doesn't ring credibly true to have a celebrity pitching your brand right now. It just doesn't seem credible. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what's the final one?
Last one is highlight your heritage and expertise. And I think that in some ways this hooks back to, you can highlight your heritage and your expertise. You could also use this opportunity to create a heritage, like what Tim was using as the example of
Anheuser-Busch.
Anheuser-Busch. If you use them as an example, their heritage is beer, right? But if they do this successful hand sanitizer thing, they're creating a new heritage and they're filling a gap. But older brands or brands that have been around for a long that you rely on, if they just continue with that messaging, it's going to be better for the brand, and the consumer is reassured that the brand is still there doing what they've done historically.
Right, and as a lot of those brands have people perceived to have gotten stodgy as times have changed, there's really a hearkening back to trust and leadership, and people want to feel that. So some of those old brands, they mentioned Ford or General Motors if they're making the ventilators, similar to what they did in World War II when their auto factories became defense manufacturers for tanks and Jeeps and all those sort of stuff. So it's interesting. We've talked about Faith Popcorn before, who is a futurist, and she predicted this 25 years ago. I'm not sure she predicted the whole pandemic, but something very similar to this about the kind of the cocooning or the lack of socialization of people. I think it's somewhat sad. No, I don't think it's somewhat sad. It's sad. I think it's kind of sad.
Well, I'll just say, to wrap this one up, Tim has talked a great deal with me about something that we've actually both talked about, and that's what's going to happen with higher education when all this is done.
Yeah.
And Tim, you've been following this a little more closely than me because you are a very, very big fan of your school. You've been very active on the alumni side. I've experienced distance learning. I did a 2-year, I've talked about this on the show before. I did a 2-year program in character animation. It was all distance learning. It was Google Hangouts, the whole bit.
Right.
It took a little getting used to the fact that I couldn't actually talk to a student or someone in my class unless I arranged it, because it was like a call. They might be in Spain or wherever they are in the world. But I did get a great education. So while the tool seemed a little unusual to me, and I would much prefer it to have been in an actual physical place, it does work. And so now you open up this Pandora's box of all this technology allowing people to connect to universities without the $70,000 a year tuition, that's like a Ivy League level. But I think this is going to be a permanent change. And you said you saw some evidence of this happening already.
Well, they're talking about how there's this call or an outcry for universities, larger universities in particular, like, do you need these large athletic teams and sports teams, and do you need these big Taj Mahal dorms and all this sort of stuff? Whereas you can get the learning done as we're doing the show right now, right? We're not in New York City in the studio. It is different. It's something to get used to. We're not physically with each other and can interact, so that I think is different, and all what happens before or after a show is different, right? But it's the same thing with education. I think the biggest challenge a lot of schools are going to have, particularly smaller schools that rely on enrollment, is right now is when kids try to make their decisions to go to school, and everything is in such upheaval now. What if you were, I don't know if we could put ourselves in the shoes of somebody, but if you were trying to make a decision now as to what school are you going back to, I can't go look at the campus. I can't go. How do you make your decision? I don't know.
For a lot of graduating seniors, many of them had already done their campus visits a while ago, right? If you're I know that my niece did in California, and
she did hers in the winter, right? She'd done them in the winter.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, exactly. And so that's off the table. She knows where she's going, and I have to believe that by September or late August, there's going to be a significant, return to whatever that is. It's not the new normal, let's call it that, but it's going to definitely involve people being together in some form.
Right.
But I think if you're on the other end of the curve where you were still making up your mind, or you're now approaching that, that decision. You're right. How do you do it? You can't do a tour. You could do a virtual tour, but you're going to virtually tour a place that you might not be able to get to. So that's just one of many industries you and I have talked about that is definitely going to be transformed. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that on the other end of this, there's going to be some pretty big shifts in terms of education, technology. Like we're all relying. I mean, let's just hope the internet doesn't come crashing down. I thought about this the other day. My laptop was doing something funny. The fans were spinning up. It was getting hot, and I knew how to fix it. But I thought, pre-coronavirus, I wouldn't even. I wouldn't hesitate to go to an Apple store if there was something wrong and go to the Genius Bar. They're all closed. So we're relying on a lot of things to not break down, and cross your fingers it's all doing okay. But if it starts and we're not out of this, well, anyway, that's just going to change a lot.
When you told me that the Apple Store was closed yesterday, I was kind of surprised by that, because I would figure that Apple or Microsoft or any of these Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, whatever, for technology, for mobile phones or for computers, I would think that'd be essential.
Tim Cook made that decision prior to a lot of states just determining what was essential and what was not essential. And the interesting thing is the day he decided to close all of Apple's stores worldwide, he opened or reopened a select number in China. And I found that fascinating because he opened them because the virus was on the downward side there and they wanted to get store traffic moving again and bring some normalcy there. So I thought at the time when he did this, which was about 2 weeks or a week and a half ahead of when everybody really started shutting down, I thought, I wonder what data he's looking at, because they have a presence all over the globe, and he just knew that we're in for it. China's on the back end of it. But I see your point. It is essential in many ways. We are all relying on these boxes and chips. And Verizon in particular,
her phone died yesterday. Because she needs her phone for work, a friend of mine's phone.
Yep.
She said it just crapped out. And it would be similar to, like you said, with your computer. You may have another one backup or something, but if you didn't, you need it for business. I think it's essential for everybody. It's essential. But
well, for our business, Tim, in case something happens with yours or mine, you're going to be ordering a new one because you can't get the old one repaired. Mine's my old. Yeah, it is my old one.
It's in good shape. Old one?
It is. Yes, it is. It's the one without the dent.
It's perfect for me. It doesn't have a dent?
Bob has that one now. That works great. Bob's very happy with that. But yeah, if something happens to yours, you can't go to the store. So I'm just going to tell you'll call me up and say, John, something's wrong. I'll be like,
why can't I go to the store? Is it at a thing? It's not up to date?
They're closed. All the stores are closed.
Oh, I thought maybe my thing couldn't be fixed anyway.
No. Until they open again, you can't talk to a genius. You can't have things handled that way unless someone knows about a different method. Maybe you contact them. Or I even bother to check the site for Apple about service. But yeah, I would think that if something goes wrong, you might just have to buy a new one and, then rehab the old one and you have two or something.
Jeez. Well, hey, listen, thanks for joining us today. Be sure to...
Thank you, yes.
Yes, thanks to Steve, thanks to Garrett for bringing us to you. I'm, as John mentioned, in the nation's summer capital down in Rehoboth. John, you didn't mention, I didn't shave. I was thinking I'm not going to shave until this is all over.
I saw before I got put into, I can't see what's going on the Tim side, but yeah, I saw the mustache. I've seen you not shave.
The mustache
before.
is kind of dark though. The mustache is coming in kind of dark, which I'm surprised about. Anyway, so thank you, John, in upstate New York. And thanks to Blinkist. If you go to Blinkist.com/focus, you get a 7-day free trial plus 25% off a subscription. We highly recommend it as one of our favorite services right now, particularly if you want to read some nonfiction and business books. Get the lowdown on them and then decide if you want to purchase. We hope everyone continues to stay in, stay safe, and stop the spread. But I'm going to go out to go get groceries, John. But I'll be sure to not text and drive. So
and wash your hands. Wash your hands.
And wash my hands. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you on our podcast on Tuesday called Unbuttoned, and then back here again next Wednesday at 1 p.m. East. Take care.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.